Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into episode 4 of Mate the Series. The episode kicked off when Zhenlong felt restless while waiting for Ori to return to the condo. It was already late, and Ori still hadn't come back. Unable to bear it any longer, Zhenlong went outside to check. Upon arriving, Zhen saw Ori stepping out of a car driven by a classmate who had given her a ride. They appeared close, which upset Zhen, so she returned to the condo without saying anything. The next day, Zhen met with Dr. Thought and his boyfriend, Sing. Zhen angrily shared her concerns about Ori, complaining that different guys were always dropping Ori off at the condo. Dr. Thought laughed and teased Zhen, asking if she was jealous. Zhen quickly denied this, claiming she just didn't want to see Ori get taken advantage of, especially since Ori had often been deceived by friends in the past. Hearing this, Dr. Thought suggested Zhen might be overthinking it, to which Zhen continued to argue, saying she simply disliked people who took advantage of others. Dr. Thought then asked, "Are you sure your words don't match your feelings?" Before he could elaborate, Zhen stopped him. Sing then spoke gently to Zhen, saying, "I understand how you feel. Sometimes, it's hard to express what's hidden in our hearts because we don't want our good intentions to hurt others. You need to calm down because nothing has happened yet, and it might never happen. Trust me and don't overthink it." This calmed Zhen down, and she replied, "I hope it's really like that." Later that evening, back at the condo, Zhen pretended to focus on work while secretly waiting for Ori to return. When Ori arrived, she hesitated before asking Zhen if she could invite some friends over the next day to work on a school assignment. Zhen agreed, and she added she will stay at her mom's house to avoid disturbing Ori's friends. Ori was happy and thanked her before calling Mint, the classmate who had driven her home the previous night. Hearing this made Zhen uneasy again, as she couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort. The next day, after class, Zhen decided to stay at her mom's house for the night. Her mother, surprised, asked if something had happened or if she had fought with Ori. Zhen denied it, but her mother pointed out that Zhen usually shared everything with her and now seemed unusually quiet. Meanwhile, Zhen's younger brother, Great, teased her, asking why she wanted to sleep at their mom's house. He joked, "Does this mean Ori is alone? Can I stay there?" Annoyed, Zhen hit Great and told him to stop thinking like that. However, she then admitted it might be a good idea if Great stayed there to keep an eye on Ori and her friends. Hearing this, Greet was delighted and started preparing his clothes to leave. However, the mother stopped him, as Greet already had plans with his mom. Greet pleaded with his mom, but she refused and insisted that Greet should get ready to go. Meanwhile, as Zhen soaked in the bathtub, she couldn't shake her uneasy feelings. Her thoughts kept returning to Ori and the possibility that Ori might be getting closer to her friends at the condo. The more she thought about it, the more unsettled she felt. When Zhen walked out of her room, she overheard Greet on the phone with Ori. Great asked if Ori had arrived at the condo yet. Ori replied that she was on the way with Mint. Greet expressed regret that she couldn't join them due to being busy. Hearing their conversation, Zhen felt increasingly uneasy. She told herself repeatedly, "It's none of my business. I have to stay home. I must stay home." When Ori and her friends arrived at the condo, Ori was shocked to see Zhen already sitting and watching TV. Ori introduced Zhen to her friends, and Zhen smiled politely before saying, "Make yourself at home. I guess this TV might be too loud for you, so I'll go inside." Zhen then added, "If you need anything, just let me know." She left for her room, leaving Ori puzzled but amused by her behavior. Inside her room, Zhen felt restless, searching everywhere for her phone but unable to find it. Ori came in and asked what she was doing. Zhen explained, and shortly after, Ori spotted the phone on the table and handed it to her. When Zhen stood up to take it, their eyes met, and her heart raced. Flustered, Zhen turned away, avoiding eye contact. Ori, noticing this, asked, "Is something wrong, Zhen? Are you feeling okay?" Zhen replied that she was fine. Ori then asked why Zhen came back to the condo when she said she'd stay at her mom's place. Zhen hesitated, avoiding Ori's gaze, and muttered, "I changed my mind." Ori smiled knowingly and teased, "Are you here because you're jealous of me being with my friends?" Zhen denied it, taking her phone from Ori's hand and pretending to focus on it to avoid further questions. Ori chuckled and left the room to work on assignments with her friends. Later that night, Zhen noticed Ori sitting alone working on assignments while her friends were having fun. This annoyed Zhen, so she called Ori aside to talk privately. Zhen told Ori she couldn't stand seeing her friends having fun while Ori worked alone. "Have you realized they're using you?" Zhen asked. Ori gently responded that her friends had helped her earlier and asked Zhen not to judge them. She then left to rejoin her friends. After finishing their assignments, Mint suggested playing the King's Card game. In this game, everyone gets a card, and whoever got the King card can command another player to do anything. If the chosen player refuses, they must drink. Ori was hesitant to join but eventually agreed after her friends persuaded her. Jen, however, did not join the game. The group played enthusiastically. Whenever Ori refused a command, she ended up drinking several glasses of alcohol. When Mint got the king card, she commanded card number 3 Ori's card to kiss her. Jen, nearby, was visibly annoyed but said nothing. Ori refused and drank more instead, quickly becoming drunk. Worried, Jen urged Ori to stop playing, but Ori's friends refused to end the game. Seeing this, Jen decided to join in to protect Ori. Then one of Ori's friends teased, "Does Jen have feelings for Ori or something?" Jen didn't respond. Later, Jen drew a card that required her to take off her underwear. Unwilling to lose, Jen bravely removed her bra. Ori, feeling concerned, handed her a pillow to cover herself, and her friends praised Jen's courage. As the game continued, another friend with the king card commanded Mint and Jen to kiss. Jen agreed, but just as she and Mint were about to kiss, Ori pulled Mint away and declared, "Jen is mine only." Then Ori kissed Jen instead. Her friends, shocked, decided to leave, sensing the tension. After everyone had gone, Jen helped Ori to her room, supporting her as Ori swayed, her body too intoxicated to stand on its own. When Jen turned to leave, Ori pulled her in, kissing her softly, a tender but intoxicating kiss. Jen, too overwhelmed to resist, kissed her back. The world felt like it was shifting beneath them as their lips met, a wave of emotion crashing over Jen. Ori fell asleep on her shoulder, her breathing steady, and Jen smiled softly to herself. She stayed by Ori's side, watching her sleep, her own heart still racing from the kiss. She didn't know what would happen next, but for now, she couldn't bear to leave. In the morning, Ori woke up, stretched, smiled contentedly, and reflected on the events of the previous night. As she walked into the living room, she found Jen sitting at the table, sipping her coffee in silence. Her posture was stiff, as if she were trying to distance herself from the past. "Good morning," Ori chirped cheerfully, but Jen only nodded, not meeting her eyes. Ori's eyes twinkled mischievously. "You're still blushing from last night, aren't you?" Jen's hand trembled slightly, nearly spilling her coffee. She quickly composed herself, forcing a casual tone. "What happened last night? Weren't you drunk?" she asked, pretending to be oblivious. Ori smiled knowingly. "I was drunk, but I remember everything." Before Jen could respond, Ori started to recount the night's events, her voice light and playful, but Jen cut her off, a flush creeping up her neck. "Stop," she said, her words coming out sharp. Ori leaned closer, her eyes darkening with an unspoken challenge. "You don't want to talk about it because you want to do it again, don't you?" Her breath was warm against Jen's skin as she leaned in, her lips inches from Jen's. Jen's heart raced in her chest. She quickly stood up, stepping back, and muttered an apology, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm sorry, what happened last night wasn't intentional. I was just caught up in the moment." Ori's gaze softened, but her tone remained playful, almost teasing. "Why are you sorry? Wasn't that your true feeling?" Jen's eyes flickered with a mix of frustration and confusion. She clenched her fists, her voice firm and serious. "My true feeling is this," she said, pushing her emotions away, distancing herself from the truth. "You need to stop acting like you're still drunk and wake up." Ori raised an eyebrow, her lips curving into a sly smile. "You're the one who needs to wake up, General. I know what's really in your heart." Jen's jaw tightened, her thoughts racing. "I've already woken up," she said, her voice steely. "I know I have a boyfriend," Doctor thought. The words felt like a barrier, a line drawn in the sand. "And you need to start seeing someone, too. You can't keep acting like this." Ori's expression shifted, darkening. The playfulness was gone, replaced by a sharp edge. "So that's it, you're just going to push me away like that?" Jen's voice grew louder, more forceful. "Yes, so that what happened last night won't happen again." Ori's eyes flashed with anger, but she held her ground. "Fine, I'll do what you want," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'll get a boyfriend, someone great, and then I'll do with him what I did with you last night." Jen froze. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she couldn't bring herself to respond. Ori's words cut deeper than she expected, and she glared at her, the anger simmering just beneath the surface. Ori smirked, sensing the shift in the air. "Why do you look so dissatisfied? Isn't this what you wanted? Or are you just acting against your heart?" The challenge in her voice pushed Jen to the edge. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come. Finally, she shook her head and turned, walking away. "I'm not acting against my heart," Jen muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. But deep down, she knew Ori had hit a nerve, and she couldn't escape the truth that lingered just beneath the surface. Later, Jen met with Dr. Thought and Singh, and they decided to go out to eat. Coincidentally, they ran into Ori, who was with another man. Singh seemed upset about Jen and Dr. Thought's relationship and he asked to leave early. However, the group of 4 stayed at the restaurant. During the meal, Jen and Dr. Thought whispered to each other, with Dr. Thought advising Jen not to treat Ori this way, warning that she might regret it. Jen ignored his advice. Meanwhile, Ori and her companion were also whispering. The man remarked that Jen and Dr. Thought didn't seem like a couple, calling their behavior strange. Ori agreed, saying, they don't look like a couple at all. Hearing this, Jen started acting flirtatiously with Dr. Thought, feeding each other to make Ori jealous. Ori and her companion mirrored their actions, further irritating Jen. Feeling frustrated, Jen excused herself to the restroom. When she returned, she saw Great outside the restaurant. Jen tried to call Dr. Thought, but he didn't answer. Seeing Ori with another man, Great angrily confronted them and attacked the man. A fight broke out, and Jen and Dr. Thought tried to intervene. Great, overwhelmed with anger, stormed off. Ori glared at Jen, suspecting that she had told Great to come. Jen walked away, but Ori followed her and demanded, did you call Great to come? Why did you do this? You told me to see someone, and now you hurt me like this. What do you want? Angrily, Jen retorted, so what? Didn't you say you'd date Great? Why did you go out with Jed then? Ori replied, didn't you think I only did that to get back at you? Jen snapped, how would I know? Isn't teasing men what you always do? Ori, hurt, said, you still think I'm that person? Jen coldly replied, that's how I see it. Ori began crying and said, I thought you'd understand me. I thought you'd see how much I've done for you. Jen replied, I do see it, but you did it to have a place to stay. Hearing this, Ori was heartbroken. She tearfully told Jen that she would leave her condo. Jen told her it wasn't necessary and that she would leave instead, moving to her mother's house. She added, think of it as support for a friend. Jen walked away, hiding her own pain. Ori stood there crying, watching her leave. When Jen moved to her mother's house, she still couldn't find peace. Her mother noticed her troubled expression and asked, why are you looking like that? Jen lied, saying she was stressed about her project. Then, she hesitantly asked her mother, why don't my thoughts and what I express match? Her mother replied thoughtfully, it might be because you're overthinking. One option seems bad, and the other doesn't feel right, so you hesitate and hold back what you really want to express. Jen asked, so what should I do? Her mother advised, when you want to say something, just say it. If you decide not to or if you say something you don't mean, people will misunderstand you. But be mindful of how you say it. If what you're about to say might hurt someone, consider your intention. Are you trying to hurt them or do what's best for them? And when you do speak, try to soften your words. Don't be as blunt as you always are. After listening, Jen began to understand. Later that evening, as she was about to take a shower, Great came to her and said, someone's here to see you. Jen, frustrated, replied, I'm not seeing anyone right now. I'm taking a bath. Great simply said, okay, I'll tell Pori. Hearing Ori's name, Jen froze. She hadn't expected Ori to come looking for her. As Great walked away, Jen quickly went to the window and peeked outside. She saw Ori standing alone in the garden under the dark sky, surrounded by mosquitoes. Ori didn't seem to care about the discomfort. She was waiting to see Jen. Jen silently watched her through the window, feeling a mix of guilt and sympathy. She wanted to go down and meet Ori but hesitated, unsure of what to do. What will happen next? Stay tuned for the next episode to find out. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting updates. Your support truly means the world to me. See you next time, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Take care and goodbye.